Hello, my name is Melody, and today on Queer Assurance, I'm going to be talking a little bit about myself, who I am, and why I'm interested in pursuing this YouTube channel. The other day, I made a YouTube video on this channel discussing the creation of the channel and the goals I intend to hit for the channel. I also briefly mentioned a little bit about myself, though I didn't go into great depth or context about who I am as a person. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. As this YouTube channel focuses on providing educational content about queer media, I feel it is important for you to understand who I am, what my biases are, and why I feel that I am someone who can run an educational, yet queer YouTube channel. So, let's get stuck in. I was born on May the 25th, 2001 in Sydney, Australia, and have been living in Sydney ever since. This makes me 22 years old as of the recording of this video. My father was also born and raised in Australia, although my mother was born in the European nation of Austria and moved to Australia when she was young. Today, I have family members living both in Australia and Austria, and one of my grandparents was also born in Germany, and on my dad's side, my family historically comes from many parts of Britain and Ireland. And as you can probably see, I am very white. As a student, I attended a public primary school and a public high school, and I have completed Year 12 and the Australian High School Certificate, which is the big test that they have at the end of high school. Most countries have some equivalent to that. As a child, I typically dreamed of becoming a professional in the video games industry or as a scientist, although neither of those are still true. Video games are still a hobby of mine that I keep today, and I do still keep up with new scientific discoveries and journalism. I was raised as a Catholic Christian and have participated in most of the Catholic sacraments, including confirmation in 2013 at the age of 12. Although I currently do not really believe in or participate in Christianity. I first learned about the LGBTQ plus community when I was about 8 years old. Back then, some of the kids in primary school had taken to using the term gay as an insult, and this is when I first learned about it. As a child, the concept of queerness was never something that seemed super foreign to me. I distinctly remember figuring out all on my own that intersex people must exist, purely based on my own knowledge at the time of how things like sex and biology worked. No one really told me that intersex people existed. I kind of just figured it out. So originally, I didn't really tie the word gay to mean something like boys who like boys, or girls who like girls, or anything like that, because for me, my first exposure to the word was as an insult. So I didn't really know what it actually meant. I had no clue about how people might use it positively, but I assumed it was probably a bad thing because people used it as an insult. At around the age of 11 was probably when I was first introduced to the concept of queer people, like, properly as a community. The idea that sometimes people fall in love with those of the same gender, and that things like gender reassignment surgery exists and stuff like that. At this time, I believed myself not to be a member of the community myself, but I did position myself as an ally, declaring that I had no issue with the LGBT plus community, and that I would support them and their ongoing fights for equality. At around the age of 13 was when I first started to question whether I myself was actually queer. At this point, I knew that I liked girls, but I hadn't put a lot of serious thought into whether or not I might like boys as well. At 14 years old, I remember genuinely sitting down and asked myself, like, if there was a boy that was really cool and I was genuinely really into them, would I necessarily be opposed to dating them? And I ended up thinking to myself, no, I probably wouldn't be. About the same time, a musician I really like released a new song. This song discussed themes of queer struggles and offered advice about how to navigate the world as a young queer person. One of the features on that song identified as pansexual, and not long after the release of this song, at 14 years old, I officially came out to many of my high school friends as pansexual. Throughout high school, I was well known as one of my school's queer students for my grade, and I was very open about my experiences of being pansexual. Thankfully, I had a relatively accepting high school experience with only a few negative interactions and nothing outright super horrible happening as a result of identifying openly as pansexual. Soon after I came out as pansexual as well, a few of the other people in my school, including quite a number of my close friends, almost all of them, would also start coming out as queer themselves. So I had a nice community of queer friends throughout my high school life, which was, very good. Very happy about that. It was during this time, particularly when I was about 15 and 16, that I also began experimenting with aspects of my gender identity. At 15 years old, mainly spurred on by the art style of a game that I had taken an interest to at the time, I painted my nails for the first time. To me, this wasn't anything expressly queer about it. I just thought I'd look pretty good with blue nails, and I do. Although being an out queer person, I think definitely helped with my confidence in doing that. I say sometimes that I'm not entirely sure if I had not been an out queer, or if I hadn't had identified as a queer, if I wasn't a queer person, if I'd really had been that confident to do something like that. So I do think that that helped, but for me, that wasn't like a thing. That wasn't like, there wasn't a connection that was really made there all too much. About the age of 16, I started experimenting with more feminine and androgynous fashion for the first time, and began experimenting with some of my closest friends. Some different pronouns and a different name for the first time. Though I soon went back to my old system, mainly because it was easier and didn't require me to explain myself. Although from 16 onwards, I began openly stating that, and making it very clear to some other people, that they, them were an acceptable pronoun to refer to me by, in addition to the other pronouns I was going by the time, which was he, him. In retrospect, that probably makes me non-binary from that point on, but it wasn't really something that I very outwardly declared was my identity at the time. It was just more of an alternative expression that people could use to refer to me if that was more comfortable with them, which in all reality, it wasn't very much so the case most of the time. Throughout the rest of my high school life, I would be openly identified as a pansexual who played with their gender expression through fashion, wearing clothes and makeup that wasn't necessarily deemed normal for my gender. Today, I officially identify as either pansexual or bisexual. I view myself as a trans femme non-binary, going by either she, her, or they, them pronouns. I am demisexual and polyamorous. I officially came out as non-binary at 19 years old, and as demisexual and polyamorous at 20. At 20, I also became accepting of the bisexual label, which in reality is probably more accurate to my feelings towards my sexuality, but I still go by the pansexual label as well. In December of 2019, gay marriage was officially recognized and legalized in Australia. At the time, I was 16 years old and too young to vote on the referendum, but I was a vocal supporter of the gay marriage yes vote on platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, and Tumblr at the time, and even attended a protest leading up to the vote. I have always been a participant in activities such as Wear It Purple Day, and have attended multiple Pride parades and other Pride-themed events ever since high school. And I am an active participant in Sydney's LGBTQ+ scene. In 2020, I officially started studying communications and media at a university level, an undertaking that the recent global pandemic was not kind to. I struggled immensely over the past couple of years, which is why I'm still going at it nearly 4 years later. However, studying comms and media has given me skills and knowledge into areas like journalism, advertising, and research, although my biggest strength is social media, as that is my major. I think that it is important to disclose that Queer Assurance will contribute to a degree to my degree. Yes. Although the channel itself is not being run exclusively for university purposes, and it's not going to be, like, featured in a test or nothing, so that's okay. And there are plans to continue making content for this channel after uni and during uni breaks. My values for this YouTube channel are to deliver accurate and in-depth information about topics of queer media. The topics I cover are researched extensively, and care is taken to ensure that information is not incorrect or harmful. It is also a view of mine and of this channel to ensure that in the making of YouTube videos, no one is harmed, so valid criticism of my content is very much so welcomed. The community of QA will always be important to me and to this channel. I do generally view myself as a left-leaning when it comes to my political views, and I am, of course, queer, so my content is generally going to be supportive of LGBTQ+ viewpoints and left-leaning viewpoints and ideas. My knowledge of POC and disability struggles are generally kind of limited, as I am white and generally quite abled. Though I do position myself as an ally and will aim to cover issues of POC and disability as truthfully and sensitively as possible, and will do my best to highlight the voices of POC and disabled queer people over my own when covering topics that pertain to those demographics. Generally, content concerning those groups are better covered by people who are part of those groups, not by me. So thank you so much to anyone who's made it this far. I hope this video was able to offer valuable insight into who I am as a person and how I plan to run the Queer Assurance YouTube channel going forward. If you've made it this far and you think this content is for you, please consider subscribing to the channel and perhaps ringing the bell to ensure that you're notified when new QA videos go live. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up or give it a thumbs down if you didn't enjoy it, and I hope to see you on my next Queer Assurance video. Take care, everyone. Be sure to drink water, eat food, and look after your health, and I hope to see you soon. Take care, and see you later.